Well, if nothing else, I'm right on time this morning. Uh, I just got back from the coffee shop. A lot of strange excitement happening in the DuQuette's world, uh, mostly writing, publishing, and things like that. And of course, maybe one project or one effort or one dream out of yeah, 1,000 actually gets to the second base. Well, a couple things have gotten to second base, but and it is kind of exciting, and I'm having to squeeze out a lot of various creative efforts. Anyway, it's a interesting weekend. It's been a sad week for us because one of my writing colleagues, screenwriting colleagues, passed away. Uh, I guess it was late last week. Uh, Win Meyerson, and he's an old friend from lodge days, and a member of the Magic Castle. I remember several times uh, we went as his guest at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, which is a kind of a different kind of magic, but nevertheless, it was always a wonderful evening. But anyway, it's Saturday morning cartoons, and I was uh, combing my brain for something kind of interesting. Now, I've shared the most all of my books with you over the last 3 years or so, in one way or another, excerpts here and there, and sometimes I've read the full book. Uh, but I'd like today to reshare uh, a, a memory, a memory that is sort of almost suitable for the something under the title of Saturday morning cartoons, and that is a chapter from my life with the spirits called "The Wizard of Takilma." Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but over the years, I get, especially since I've been on the air every morning, uh, I get very understandable emails and with people that don't quite have the subtle grasp of what modern ceremonial magic is, and they're sort of enamored of the Harry Potter kind of classic what you think of magic is, and ooga booga this and ooga booga that. Uh, and they ask, well, have you ever seen an adept, appear out of thin air, or have you ever? Do you know any adepts, or are you part of the Great White Brotherhood? How much are the dues? And my answer is always very truthful. The dues are you pay with your life. Okay, but but anyway, and I have to say, that's not kind of what my magic is about, or what my understanding of what magic should be for me, anyway. But when I think back on our very long and colorful life together, Constance and I have met uh, quite a few very, very interesting people, some of whom I could categorize as real life wizards, real life, in your face miracle-working wizards. And one of them is in the chapter here called the Wizard of Takilma. And just to put things in perspective, we're talking about 1968. Constance and I had been married 1 year. Okay. And we got married in Southern California, but soon became more or less alarmed by the situation in the country, the situation in the world, and inspired by the cultural revolution of the psychedelic 60s. In March 1968, we moved into, shortly after we were married, people that attended our wedding, okay, it was a very nice Quaker couple that we had met through my brother. And the Quakers were really into the anti-war movement, and so this wonderful couple, Ron and Nancy was their real names. I don't use their real names in the book. And they had 4 children, or 5. Shit, I forget. But we met them, and he was a college teacher at the University of Irvine, and she was a professional midwife. And obviously highly educated people in the anti-war movement, in the peace movement, and that sort of fit in with us, except I dropped out of college to attend the 60s. But after our wedding, they invited us to come live with them and their children in a beautiful new home in the new community of University Park, Irvine, where a lot of the professors and university professionals lived. And so we did move in with them. But on April 4th, 1968, we started looking for a place to more or less drop out. Ron was ready to leave his university position, saved up a little money. We wanted to drop out, like Timothy Leary suggested. And let's see, March 68, we started shopping for a larger home in the nearby canyons and forests. They're now on fire, I might add, where we could establish a private communal base. We didn't want to move too far away. Carl was still trying to hang on to his job. On April 4th, though, our plans changed dramatically. Martin Luther King was assassinated and plunged us all into a state of paranoia. Timothy Leary was advising folks to tune in, turn on, and drop out. We were already tuned in and turned on, and nothing now remained but to drop out. And the subculture grapevine was humming with tales of a utopian communal life in Southern Oregon. And we heard of this magical place called Takilma, a tiny village. Actually, it's a road with this by the river with a string of houses. It did have like a general store, which was a gas station, and complete with a Franklin stove in the. I'm sorry, it was right out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Okay, gorgeous. It's now a community of luxury tree houses. Of course, that happened long after we hippies left. Okay, in a tiny village on the Illinois River near the California border, where land was cheap and the valley was filled with beautiful people just like us. There was even, we heard, a mysterious wizard, a French Canadian pranic healer, and a follower of Yogananda, who lived in a renovated barn by the river, and he was selling property next to his. Sounded too good to believe. My brother and Ron made an exploratory visit up there and saw that it would be a paradisial. It was going to be the perfect place for us. Okay. And so let's see here. And so on May Morn, 1968, after selling nearly everything we had except my guitars and books, Constance and I set out for Takilma, along with my brother Mark and his wife Margaret, and Ron and Nancy, and their 4 children and 13 cats, in a blue Volkswagen bus. I still drive one. There we hope to build our own homes and live quiet lives of fasting, meditation, and study. There we intended to achieve perfect illumination before the world blew apart. Okay, this is what I wanted to, yeah, we did. We moved up there, and for a month or so, we lived in a large house on Waldo Road, while we figured out where exactly in that area that we were going to live. Now, Ron and Nancy went up to a huge, very, very organized commune called Sunny Valley. Let's see here. Maybe that's where I can pick it up. But it was a very organized commune. Okay, more organized than young Constance and I were prepared for discipline like that. If we wanted discipline like that, we've always been the laziest of mystics. Okay. Let's see. Okay. On June 5th, that's how fast things are moving, after winning the California presidential primary election, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated in the pantry of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Just a year or so later, Charlie D. and Milo played with Sammy Davis Jr. at that very place. We brought our amps in through that same kitchen where you shot. The consensus around the hippie campfires was that the evil forces of the proverbial military-industrial complex were firmly in charge of the domestic situation, fearing things would get worse for those with dissident philosophies. Many of our neighbors made plans to go even deeper into the woods. Ron and Nancy liked what they saw up at the Sunny Valley commune and soon moved there with their children and some of the cats. A month or so afterwards, we saw their smiling faces on the cover of Life magazine. You can still see them on the Life magazine coffee table book of the 60s. Okay, that's Ron and Nancy. The photo spread on the inside featured Ron and Nancy as well. Today you can find those same pictures in numerous coffee table pictorials of the 1960s. The DuQuettes were not so anxious to submit to the hard work and discipline lifestyle of formal communal life. We pooled our money, bought a half acre of land by the Illinois River near Takilma. My brother Mark and Margaret pitched a tent on the property and set up a home base for our home building efforts. Constance and I moved nearby in a magical little one-room cabin behind the massive renovated barn that was the home of the Wizard of Takilma. Gary Dubois is what I call him in the book here. Didn't look, but he had a very French name, okay? Gary Dubois didn't look like much of a wizard. He was a quiet man of about 5.5 feet tall, almost skinny. He had a thick black beard that he kept well trimmed. He smiled all the time. Now, reminiscent of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, okay? If you've ever seen any picture of him, he's going, Gary was like that. Just one look at Gary and lowered your blood pressure. Okay, that's what an aura is, okay? When you can just look at somebody and they lower your blood pressure. But I digress. He smiled all the time and spoke with a charming French-Canadian accent. He lived with his wife, Diane, a huge woman, easily 3 times his size, and their 10-year-old son, Andre. Now, I know Andre is grown-up. Andre is a Facebook friend of mine, and sometimes he even watches these shows. So Andre, I hope you're listening this time, because this is my subjective memory of this snapshot of your lifetime too. Their home was the envy of everyone on Takilma Road. From the outside, it was a huge barn, complete with all the exterior adornments one usually expects to see on an old barn. Hubcaps, horseshoes, an assortment of deer antlers and animal pelts. And the centerpiece was the skin of a large brown bear, complete with head and claws, just tacked to the side of the barn. The interior was bizarre, to say the least. It was one big room partitioned here and there by antique bookcases, bureaus, secretaries, and wardrobes. In other words, the furniture, mostly bookcases, formed the walls, the interior walls, and made the rooms of the large barn. 2 walls were taken up completely from floor to roof. There really wasn't a ceiling. With makeshift bookcases crammed full of books. Gary admitted to having over 3,000, but there easily could have been more. On the southeast corner near the front door, Diane had her kitchen, illuminated on 2 walls by large, cheery windows. It could have served as a cozy model for a Beatrix Potter story. Her altar was a huge, light green enameled stove, wood stove, and a warming oven upon which she invoked the most amazing delicacies that she crammed into your mouth each time you entered her world. Gary worked all night at a local dairy, and during the day performed the usual chores around the farmstead. I'm not sure when he slept. Now, I don't know if I talk about it here, but Gary had and was in the process, but he had channeled a book. Now, he didn't talk about it like it was spiritually channeled. I have to pause and say that Southern Oregon was abuzz every night with UFO activity. Any night you cared to go out and look, you saw something. And don't think we were all taking acid and smoking dope and imagining things. One of the downsides of hippie life in rural Oregon was there was no LSD. there was no dope. Okay, it was the driest spell this old hippie musician would have in the whole like 10-year period. No. Various kinds of UFO activities. And Gary channeled full books of wisdom. And Andre, if I know I've asked you this before, if you know what happens to his manuscripts, because he read from them to us during that brief stay. Please let me know. I'd be interested at least in reviewing them. But he called them Messages from the Space Brothers. And it read like channeled material. It read like Edgar Cayce. It read like the wisdom of Seth Speaks or Course in Miracles. Okay, it was good stuff. And that was just casual, pleased to meet you conversation, okay? Our little cabin was close enough to the Dubois barn for us to hear Gary and Diane fighting at night. You remember that, Andre? Actually, it was just Diane who did the fighting. Once she started yelling at Gary about one thing or another, he would escape by astrally projecting to safety. He was only successful if he could get to the couch and pop out before Diane saw what was going on. She described herself as being cursed with clairvoyance. One night, Constance and I were awakened by the sound of dishes smashing against the barn wall. And this is Diane. "You're not going to float out of here while I'm talking to you." The voice was Diane's, and she meant business. Another plate crashed into the wall. "Get back, God damn it, or I'll move your little ass body where you'll never find it." And Constance and I are listening to this, cowering under our sheepskin in our one-room jewel box. We heard Gary's pitiful mumblings. Then another dish hit the wall. Okay, stop it now." Oh, no, this is him talking. Okay, stop it now. I'm back. Early the next morning, Diane came to our cabin with a plate of cheese blintzes and an explanation of the previous night's events. "He just does it to irritate me. I can see him do it. I wish I couldn't. If he gets too far away, he can stay out for hours. But if I catch him just as he's leaving, I can bring that little fart back. Last night I nailed him with a soup bowl. Bam! Right through the skinny little spook." Gary was a pranic healer, a skill that made him somewhat of a folk hero in Southern Oregon. People from far away as Grants Pass and Medford traveled to the barn to receive his treatments. Constance and I were privileged to watch him at work on a number of conditions, including asthma attacks, even broken bones. However, the most amazing thing I ever saw him do was resurrect a dead cat. And that story will be tomorrow's Sunday school lesson. Very appropriate with all this cat eating excitement going on in the world. Anyway, that's it for Saturday morning cartoons. If ever it was true, I got a lot to do today. So, but I'm looking forward to it because, anyway, hopefully sometime soon I'll have some exciting news to share, or you'll see me all downtrodden, down in the mouth. Anyway, it's the grand tapestry of life. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.